Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming at you with another special announcement. This is an announcement for my channel, my role-playing campaign, and it's a dual-purpose announcement. This announcement is to announce our upcoming campaign, what it's about, some details, and some information. But it's also to let players that are going to be in the campaign get a little taste for what's expected of them and to let them know a little bit about the campaign before it starts. Okay, so let's start off with just some basic details. This is going to be a Wednesday night campaign. We're going to play it from 7 to 11 Central Time. So that will give time for the East Coast and the West Coast to be able to watch this. Now, it'll be recorded, and you can always watch it at a later time on a recording. That's fine. But if you wanted to watch it live and you want to communicate with us and the crew, you would have to be on between 7 and 11 Central Time. We will be playing on Wednesdays. The first game should be the 24th of August. Okay, so as a player, if you're watching this video to learn a little bit about the campaign and to hear a little bit of details, we will be making characters the 3 Wednesdays before the campaign. So the 3rd, the 10th, and I think the 17th. I think that's how it lines up. Same time, okay? We'll start at 7 and we'll continue on until everyone in the chat at the time has made their characters, and then we'll move on. Now, but you don't have to be there the 3rd. If you're unable to make it, you need to make it on the 10th, that's fine. I expect players to be at every session. If you are unable to make it to a session, that's understandable. We understand people have a life. Accidents happen. Things happen. You know, life comes at you in different angles, different ways. But if I start to notice that you as a player are missing games on a regular, then I will have to move on with someone that's more reliable, because that just tells me you're not reliable. Okay, or if you show up late all the time, like the game starts already super late, 7 p.m. Central Time. If, let's say, you show up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock every time, guess what? You're out. Okay, so just to let you know, this campaign is going to be streamed live on YouTube at this channel, and I want it to be a little bit more professional than maybe a game that you normally play on the weekends with your friends. Okay, so if you're able to deal with that, or if that's something that you're excited about, or maybe you look forward to that and you feel like you can do that, then we would be glad to hear from you. If you're interested in this game, be sure to check us out on Roll20, because we're going to be using we're going to be playing this campaign using Roll20 for the die rolls, the maps, the counters, the monsters, all that stuff is going to be on Roll20. Now, our voice and video is going to be on Discord. So our players are going to be required to have a webcam. It's going to have to be on. I understand that there are technical issues and people have problems getting their mic to work or their cameras to work or whatever. I understand that. I sometimes have those problems as well. But again, if it becomes a regular thing, every week your mic doesn't work, or every week your camera doesn't work, you're going to be gone. I'm going to try to find someone that's a little bit more, again, reliable, a little bit more professional. Okay, so if you feel like that's not going to be a problem, then don't even worry about it. We'll brush that under the rug. That's not even going to be an issue. This campaign. Now let's talk about this campaign. This campaign is D&D 5th edition. It's a Greek campaign. It's going to be ancient Greece, not fantasy land, not some far off world of Narnia or you know, Faerun or some other mythical land. It is Earth. Ancient Greece. Okay, so what does that mean for the players? Well, the monsters, first of all, I'm going to be utilizing a lot of Greek mythological creatures, and there are certain race restrictions and class restrictions on the players. So this is going to be a game for a lot of you out there. This game might not be what you're used to if you're playing or if you're watching, but you might feel a certain way, and I want you to understand that you're not in this alone. This is a little bit different campaign than what you're probably used to. You probably, can play whatever you want, whenever you want, do whatever you want, and your referee doesn't put any limitations on you. That's not the way I run games. All right, now as a campaign and as a game master for this campaign, I have rules. I have an orderly set of the world is laid out in a specific way, and it will be part of my job to make sure that the boat is upright. I want the players, that's you, to understand that the limitations that are placed on you and the focus that is on the players is to not only to enhance the story and to make it more challenging for the players, but it also is to bring it closer to Greek mythology. Because it's ancient Greece and it's right about that period where the Bronze Age is starting to turn into the Iron Age, you're going to see a lot of limitations on what kind of armors you can have, what kind of races you can be, what kind of classes you're allowed to be, the backgrounds. It's not an open book. You can't pull out any single book from the D&D lexicon and play any class, any race. That's not this kind of campaign. You will have a ton of limitations on you. So just understand that before you get into the game. Have an open mind. Understand that this is Earth in ancient Greece. It is not it's not a fantasy world. Will there be mythological creatures? Yes. Can you play a non-human race in the game? Yes. But you can't play all of them. There are certain ones that are limited, and you'll learn that as you join the game. Classes. Not every class is going to be available. And the class restrictions are because of the type of game I'm running. I'm running a specific type of game. It is going to be a heroic odyssey. The players are going to be heroes and not villains. So don't come to the game thinking you're going to just lay waste to Greece, go through Sparta, and just wipe out all the Spartans with your magic or whatever, because if you were to do that as a player, or as a character, or as a hero in my world, if you were to do that, you would have to have an extremely good reason to do it, and not just because you felt like it. If it was something that you had to do, well, first of all, that's up to me to put you in that position where you have to do it. So I can't blame the player if I make you do it, right? But if you do it outside of that, what you the player is telling me is you have no respect for being a hero in this campaign. And that tells me I don't want you to be in my campaign. Okay, so that's not the kind of game we're running. We're not running a game where the players are wild lunatics. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. You guys are heroes, champions. That doesn't mean you have to be Hercules from the TV series where you're the good guy all the time. But you can be Aeolus, that's fine. Or you can even be Xena, right? But you're not going to be the guy that doesn't help people, right? Because you're a hero. Okay, so since I started to get into the type of the game it is, or the type of world, okay, so let me give you some details of the type of world it's going to be. Okay, the campaign is going to be ancient Greece. You'll be making a character that interacts with and adventures, explores, goes on quests, etc. in and around the ancient Greek peninsula. So you're going to see Sparta and Athens and, Delphi and maybe even Olympus or whatever. You're going to see all these things. But having said that, I'm also taking a lot of inspiration from a lot of fantasy writers as well, and taking those fantasy writings and converting it into something that would fit, I should say, in a Greek world. So just imagine yourself in a Greek world. All right, now, having said that, remember, everyone's okay. You're on Earth. The timeline is the late Bronze Age, early Iron Age, ancient Greece. There are mythological creatures and monsters. But where do these mythological creatures and monsters come from, first of all? And what about the people, right? Well, understand that in this campaign, the ancient Greek gods, Zeus, Hera, Apollo, all those guys, are real, right? And they interfere and interact with the mortals. And because of that, you have to understand that because Zeus and Ares and whoever else interfere with humanity, that there is a lot of respect for those gods, and they're worshipped, and they are it's a big deal. Okay, it's like more than half of the campaign is about the Greek gods. Or I shouldn't really say that, but more than half of the Greek culture, let's say, is about the Greek gods. And so you really have to not necessarily understand the gods, because they're not understandable, but you have to understand that they exist and they could interfere, or they could help or grant you boons or gifts. So I expect everybody in the game to gravitate towards one or more of the gods, but that's not a requirement. You don't have to do that. I just expect it to happen. Okay, having said that, because there are gods, there are mythological creatures, and what we know of ancient Greece is it was all humans, right? Okay, but there were people, I'm going to call them people, that interacted with the humans in ancient Greece, like the centaur tribes. Just using that as an example. Centaurs do exist in my world. Did they really exist in ancient Greece? Probably not. I'm going to say they didn't, right? I mean, I wasn't there, so I really don't know, but no. But in our mythological ancient Greece, they do. So there are also a few other races that I'm pulling from Greek themed modules that I'm going to input into my world, uh, like the Leonin. Like you can play a Leonin. Leonin came from a module called Mythical Odyssey of Theros. Theros is not Greece. Theros is a Magic the Gathering world, but it's Greek themed. Okay, so it's easy to pull from that. There are things like the Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. There's a lot of good things that I'm going to be drawing out of the Odyssey of Dragon Lords, and so there's a lot of Greek history that you could probably read on or look up, but that's real Greece, and this is my Greece. Okay, so don't conflate the two. Don't think that because this happened in ancient Greece, it's guaranteed to happen in my world. That is not the case. First of all, my world's got a little bit of magic, not a lot. It's got a little bit. It's got things going on that are probably not true happening, like the Greek gods. There is a Mount Olympus and everything, but that doesn't mean Zeus is sitting on the top of there throwing lightning bolts. Okay, so races. It is pretty much a human-centric world, okay? And if you want to play a non-human, understand, and there are a limited number of races that you can play that are not human, but if you want to play one of those, understand that there's going to be a lot of racism, okay? There's going to be a lot of prejudice against those monsters. So if you wanted to play, let's say a centaur, let's stick with that. Let's say you want to play a centaur. Centaurs are cool. They're tribal. They live out on the land. They have their herds or whatever but they don't really interact in the cities. Some of them might come into some villages, or they might have friends in some villages and stuff like that. But they're looked upon as other. They're the other type of people. They're different. They're weird, So if you wanted to play a centaur and then you go strutting into Athens, you're probably going to be looked at, not prevented, but you're going to be looked at like, what the hell? That's a centaur. And I can't believe centaurs, how dare they come walk into our town? That kind of stuff. So so just understand that if you want to play a non-human race, you are going to be second-class citizens, first of all. Okay, having said that, there's nothing wrong with, as a dungeon master, I encourage it because that puts more limitations on you. And anything that puts a limitation on a player is a good thing. That tells me that that's more of a challenge for the player to overcome, to become that hero. But if you don't want to, or if that doesn't fall in line with what you want to do, like who wants to be a centaur? I don't want to be a centaur. I wouldn't want to play a centaur. But if you do and you want to do that, then that's cool. I encourage it. I think it'll be fun. But just understand that I'm going to have fun being racist. So hey. Okay, there are a number of classes. Okay, as a general rule of thumb, we are only using the player's handbook. I hope I don't have to say that again. As a general rule of thumb, so it's not 100%, we're only, that's like saying 90% of the time, there's a 50% chance that he'll hit 1/3 of the time. So there's, generally speaking, we're playing Player's Handbook classes, -2. You cannot play a sorcerer or a warlock. Boom, they're out. Don't even attempt it. If you want to have a magic, if you want to have a arcane class, that would be either a wizard, an arcane trickster, a eldritch knight. Okay, those are arcane. You can play those. That's not a problem. But if you want to play more of a religious character, which is going to be probably more in line with what's really going on in this fantasy world, because of all the gods interacting with everybody directly, you can play clerics, no problem, with almost all the domains. Okay, there's a bunch of domains that you can play. Can you play a necromancer? No. Necromancers are reserved for villains. Same thing. Sorcerers and warlocks are considered villains. So, do they exist in the world? Yes. Can you play them as a player? No. It's much like lycanthropy. Not that that's ever going to happen, but if it did, when you become a lycanthrope, you forfeit your character and you make a new character, because lycanthropes are villains. They're not heroic champions of good and justice. Speaking of good and justice, you do not have to play a lawful good character. For one thing, alignments, I'm not using D&D alignments. There's no lawful this, chaotic that. There's no neutral, okay? I'm using, so if you want to read up on it, that's fine. I'm using the Palladium alignment system. And you can only be of 3 alignments in this campaign. And this is not an evil campaign. This is not a campaign where everybody's a bad guy, which those campaigns are fun. But no, this is a heroic, mythological, heroic champion of good and justice type campaign. So you can play principled, scrupulous, or unprincipled. Okay? There are... you're not going to be diabolical. You're not going to be abhorrent. You're not going to be a miscreant. You will be principled, scrupulous, or unprincipled. Those are the alignments. Don't think lawful good, chaotic evil. That doesn't happen. That doesn't exist. When you come, I'll give you a handout that explains what each of those alignments mean, or you can Google it. Okay, the reason why we have 3 character generating sessions is because it's going to take some time. We're generating characters on the 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th. If you can make one of those or all of those, that would be great. But my point is, it's going to take time to make characters. And why? Why, Mr. Everything? Because the D&D character, you just roll up some stats, give them a couple of feats, pick your poisons, and then you're pretty much done, right? No. I'm using... You can't see it. Glare. There we go. Get some glare off of there. Central Castings, Heroes of Legend, with some changes. I've made my own changes in that, but that is a character background generator. The last chart, or the last table, is 978. Do you use all those tables? No. Okay. So as an example, you roll up this, you roll up that, you roll this and that, and then you roll that and this. Okay. And then you get to a part where it says, roll for this. And then you roll, and you got this chart of like 100 different options. And each one of those options has its own table. So you're looking at like 100 tables so you won't be using all 100 tables. Okay. So, but it does take some time, because you and me sitting at a table making a central casting character might take 2 hours, approximately. I would say. I would go about, it takes about 2 hours. Now, if you take 6 people sitting around the table, it's going to take more than that, because each person has to do it. Now, you don't all have to do it one after the other. You can do it simultaneously, but I can't give you your results simultaneously, because then I would say, what did you roll? I rolled a 1. Okay, well, this is what happens. What did you roll? I rolled a 3. Okay, well, this is what happened to you. Blah, 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 blah. And then it's done. And then we go, okay, now let's go for the second roll. Let's do the third roll. Or I will roll a guy, give him a couple of, whatevers. It takes a while, because you determine, and think of the central and you might have this great concept, like, this is what my character is going to be all about, and this is where I'm been, and this is where I'm going, and that doesn't change any of that. This just fills in the blanks. So let's say, as an example, you want to be a paladin for Athena, right? And that's your deal, right? You want to be a paladin of Athena, and you want to go, and you want to say in your bio that your parents were killed, and that you were raised in the church, and that you became this paladin because Athena showed you the light or the way, right? And they trained you and raised you, and you turned out to love Athena, right? Okay. That's great. That's a good start on the background. So now when you roll in central casting, it will say things like, your parents were cobblers, and you have 3 brothers and sisters, and you were raised by a wolf. I'm just coming up with something on top of my head. You were raised by a wolf, and you learned how to shovel shit in the city, and you met a dog in the woods, and he became your best friend, and then he died a year later, and then bandits raided your village, and that's the kind of information that central casting will give you. Now, you just take what you want and what central casting gave you and overlap them and make it work. If you don't have an idea already in place, that's okay. Because the central casting, you just go, oh, well, my parents were cobblers. I got 3 brothers and sisters. I was raised by a wolf. He died a year later. Or no, I'm sorry, I met a dog. He died a year later. Pirates raided my village, or whatever. And so you've already got a little bit of a background, right? And that's what the central casting does. It fills in all those blanks. But you, as the owner of the character, you have you have permission, or I shouldn't, you have, what's the word I'm looking for? You have authority to fudge some of those details. Okay. Yes, my parents were cobblers, right? I was raised by a wolf. But then my parents were killed. Well, how did they die? Well, guess what? You already know there's going to be some pirates raiding your village. Just say those pirates that raided your village killed your parents. So just work it out, make it, and that is where the time comes in to flesh out the backstory of your character. Now, part of creating your character in my campaign is not just the random rolls from central casting. It's also your choices that you make, obviously, like what class you're going to play, what race you're going to play, etc. But there's also going to be God choices. Because remember what I said before, the gods love to interfere with the players, the people, and so there's going to be things that happen to you that you have no control over as a player. I want you to understand that you are not the master of your own destiny. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe you are the master of your destiny. You just don't get to write what your destiny is. That's the point. So you have like a destiny and you're the master of it. So how do we determine the destinies? Well, the gods have I have a lot of charts, unfortunately, that tell me what each of the gods, how they might interact and interfere with what your characters. Okay. So now the timeline and history versus reality versus fantasy. I don't know if I said this earlier. So because I filmed this, I recorded this about 15 times. So I don't know if I said it or not. But I'm going to tell you that there is Earth. Right? Earth in, ancient Greece is on Earth. It's not in Narnia. It's not in Faerun. It's not in Middle Earth or whatever. It's on Earth. It's in Greek. It's on the Greek peninsula. You have Athens and you have, Sparta and Thebes and Macedonia and all that. You got Persia. Basically, that whole Peloponnesian area, you've got that. Were there monsters? No. We can say without a shadow of a doubt, there was no monsters. Were there myths and legends of monsters? Sure. Like minotaurs and chimera and dragons and whatever. There's myths of that. Did they really exist? No. Do they exist in my game? Yes. So I'm running a real world game with a little non-real world stuff thrown in. Okay, so as a player, you need to as a player, not a character, as a player, you need to understand that this is the real world. So you can go visit certain places in the real world, like Athens or whatever. You can interact with people that I, as a referee, might have pulled from history, but the history is written by me and only me. So don't go saying or thinking, hey, this happened at this time, and according to Derek's calendar, this should be happening right about now. Or, there's this great, like Mount Vesuvius, erupts on this day or whatever. No, don't play like that. Don't use your knowledge as a player of what happened in the real world influence what your character is doing in this fantasy world, even though it is kind of a real world. The monsters. The monsters are D&D 5th edition monsters. I understand. I've been running D&D since 1st edition, believe it or not, since before 1st edition, since the little brown books. I understand the idea of challenge rating or difficulty and all that. I get that. 5th edition is not hard. Players and player characters in D&D 5th edition have it way too easy. I'm telling you, straight up, that it's D&D 5th edition is the participation trophy of Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, I play D&D. Yeah. I personally love D&D 5th edition because of the simplicity of the mechanics, the ease of play, the lack of it being super complicated. But having said that, I also know it's way too easy for players. I want it to be easy for dungeon masters, me, because it takes a load off my shoulders. But on the other hand, that load has been taken off of the players as well. And they've admitted that they've done this to attract more people into the world of D&D and the enjoyment and the fun of playing D&D. But for us veterans of D&D, or us people that are committed or serious about our games, we see that opening up of the world to all of these non-D&D players has watered down the D&D experience. So I'm here to tell you that I'm going to do everything in my power to make my game challenging and rewarding to my players. You will have to overcome obstacles and challenges that you might feel are insurmountable. And they might be. But when you do overcome them, you'll have more of a gratification. You will say, wow, we actually killed the Titan. Wow, I can't believe we did that. Or I can't believe that this Titan was wandering around, destroying all these villages, and we as first level characters went up and stabbed him in the toenail. No, that's not what's going to happen. But think of I don't know, Clash of the Titans. You got this guy, he's just some dude, and he goes up and he fights these creatures that you would never think would be possible for him to fight. But he does, and he overcomes it. In D&D, it's too easy. I just cast Fireball. I'll magic missile them, or whatever. I'll run over there with my +5 Holy Avenger. You're not going to get a +5 Holy Avenger, I'll tell you that. Unless you please a god somehow, and he really likes you. Okay, so, well, actually, in D&D 5th edition, they don't give you +5s. That's old school. Yeah, equipment. It's bronze, maybe a little bit iron. The medieval weapons. There's a lot of them that don't exist in ancient Greece, so you don't get to use all those medieval weapons. So what I'm just trying to tell you is, there's a general rule of thumb. This will be the end of the video. There's a ton of limitations on the players. A ton of limitations. Bringing their power level under control. The challenges, don't expect a goblin to be running around with 4 hit points. It's not going to happen. He might have 20. Okay, so just the challenges are going to be greater than what you probably have experienced. I've made a number of changes. These are mythological creatures. They are not just some creature wandering the woods, even though those do exist. Gods are everywhere. So you have to be constantly vigilant about who or what a god, how a god might be influencing you. And because they are everywhere. There's tons of gods. There are more gods than just 12. There's at least 36 in my campaign. Beyond time. Beyond camera. Be ready to have a good time. I'm strict, but not unreasonable. When I say a specific rule is the way it is, just understand that's the way I do it. It might be different than what you're used to. Just accept it and move on. Don't be a rules lawyer. Do I make mistakes? No. Yes, I do. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But if I'm in a game and I say X is Y, and you go, well, Mr. Everything, no, X is X. Be quiet. Don't say that. Just roll with it. And then after the game or whatever, in Discord, whatever, chat with me later after and say, Mr. Everything, I just want a clarification. You said that X was Y, but from what I remember, X is X. Is that right? Did you mean to say Y? Or, was that a mistake? Or, whatever. I'm just trying to help in that point. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, after the fact saying, yeah, and then if I meant X to be Y in the chat, I can say, no, X was Y. I that's what I meant. Or I'll go, X is not Y? What the hell? What is he talking about? Let's double check that. And then I'll go double check it and I'll be like, oh crap, X is X. And then I'll say, yeah, you were right. X is X. My bad. And then I won't do it again, right? So don't do that in the middle of the game. Don't just accept what I'm saying as gospel. Go with it. And if you know in the back of your mind that it's wrong, live with it. And then at the end of the game, after the game is over, chat me up. Say, hey, I think this is wrong. Can you, is it supposed to be that way? Did you mean for it to be that way? And then I'll be like, yes, I meant for it to be that way. Or no, I didn't mean for it to be that way. Okay, so that's what I'm asking. I think that explains everything about the campaign, other than the fact that who the players are and where we're going to start and what the first adventure is going to be like and all that stuff, which I'm still working on all that. I'm still crunching some numbers, like how many millions of hit points do I want to give the Titan of the Tennessee Titans, whatever. But okay, so if you are interested in this campaign, if you are willing to put up with my BS, go ahead and contact me in Roll20 under Mythic Odyssey is the game I'm running. My handle on there is DM Derek, and I look forward to any new players that want to play. I've already got a number of applications, and we could use a few more. I don't mind playing with up to 6 players. That is probably my limit. At 6 players, I'm going to stop. I would prefer 4 or 5 players. 6 is probably too many. But on the other hand, if you have only 4 players and one guy calls out or, has an emergency, can't show up to the game, now you've lost 25% of your party. And so that's kind of pretty impactful. But if you've got 6 people and one guy calls out, then that's not that big of a deal. That's like less than 7, that's like 17%. Okay, guys, I don't know. I'm going on a tangent. So if you want to play, contact me. If you've already contacted me and you want to bail out, just let me know you want to bail out, because maybe you didn't expect this game to be as strict as I'm going to be. But I really hope that everybody in this game, and if you want to see a little bit about how I run games, you can check out my last stream, which is Odyssey of the Dragon Lords. That was not an on-camera stream. That's not a very professional stream. It's kind of just me. Plus, I did some Traveler back in the day, ran a few streams of that. But I'm sticking to one game right now, D&D 5th edition, upscaled for difficulty. Players have limitations. We're playing in a real world of Greece. And I look forward to running this game for you guys. All right, and I hope you guys enjoy the campaign if you're either watching or playing. And I will see you, what is it, the 24th? All right, catch you later.